So we are officially in crockpot season, right? So I have 3 recipes that I made this week in my crockpot, and I'd like to show you what I did. So let's get going. Okay, so the first recipe I made is broccoli cheddar soup. I've actually never made broccoli cheddar soup before, so it's cool this week and windy and rainy, and I thought it was a good time to try it out. So I have about 4 cups-ish of broccoli, which I'm just cutting into really small bite-sized pieces here. I don't know if you could use frozen if you had frozen. I guess maybe if you let it thaw a little bit, but it might get mushy. I'd stick to fresh. Let's see. I would stick to fresh. Okay, then put those bits into the crock pot, and then I have about a half a cup of diced onion. This is frozen that I had already prepped in my freezer, so I went ahead and used that, and I put in a little bit of frozen garlic also, and a little bit of a half a cup of diced celery too. 2 tablespoons of butter also, and then we're gonna season up with a little bit of salt and pepper. Went a little heavy on the pepper, and some salt. And then we have the broth. So you make a little cornstarch slurry to go in there, right? So you have 4 cups of chicken broth, along with a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. We'll just dump that in with the broth. I make a little bit of a mess, trying to show you guys here. Whoop. See, cornstarch is so messy. No matter how well or how neat I try to be with it, it never works out. So then you just whisk the broth and the cornstarch together, and then dump it into your crock pot. Let it go for about 4 hours on low. And then you can either just leave it the way it is, or I like to get out my immersion blender and just blend it up just a little bit. I want to leave some texture in there. I don't want the broccoli completely pulverized, so I just, go until I'm happy with it. And then add 1 cup of heavy cream. Okay, stir that in. This is looking really tasty. And then a bunch of cheese. The recipe calls for 4 cups of cheddar, but we did a little bit under that, because then, you also want to add a little bit on top when you're eating it too. So I didn't go quite 4 cups, but I did put a lot in there, but just do what you like. Do what you like. That's what I say. And it worked out just fine. Now it said also at this point, if you need your soup to be a little bit thicker, you can add another little bit of a slurry in there to thicken it up. But I mean, it was fine. And as the soup cools and sits for a little bit, it will thicken too. So, but anyway, my daughter and I really enjoyed this. You could serve it with a little side salad, or some breadsticks, or garlic bread, whatever you like to do. And it was just perfect on the night that I made this. It was rainy and yucky outside, and you just, have a nice cup of warm soup, and it just makes your night a little bit better. So I put a little bit more cheese on. I put a little green onion on there, and it was great. It was perfect. And it warmed up really well, actually, I must say. Okay, so now I'm going on to the second recipe, which is Lazy Girl Lasagna. Very good. I've made this quite a few times. I've made this on my channel one time before, I think. But anyway, first we're going to start off with making the meat sauce for the Lazy Girl Lasagna. So the recipe calls for ground beef, but I like to use Italian sausage. So I have 1 pound of Italian sausage. a couple tablespoons of tomato paste. Yes. A little bit of frozen garlic goes in. And did a little bit of some onions that I had in the freezer. I really like doing that little trick. It just really cuts down on the prep and your cook time when you're making dinner. It's just really nice to have those onions ready for you in the freezer whenever you need it. Okay, so brown the Italian sausage, put in the tomato sauce or tomato paste, let that cook down for a little bit. And then I have 3 cans of crushed tomatoes. They're 15 ounces each. And I just throw those in. Just like that. Mix it around. Let everything kind of cook together. And then because there's so much acidity in the tomatoes, I put a little bit of sugar in there just to balance that out a little bit. So you don't have that like bite of, you know, acidity, and plus it's sitting in a can. So the sugar really helps with that. And then I sprinkle on a little bit of Italian seasoning and some garlic powder and onion powder, just to really kind of wake up those canned tomatoes, give it just a little bit more flavor. And then salt and pepper. And then I turn this down as low as I can. And then I just kind of let it cook for a little bit. And then I'm going to get out my crock pot here, spray it down. These are the raviolis I'm going to use. But first, I'm going to put down a little bit of the meat sauce in the bottom of the crock pot, just to make sure those raviolis don't stick. Just a good couple spoonfuls here. We're going to do a couple layers in here. So then the ravioli, the frozen, you can use frozen ravioli. And the ravioli goes on top of the meat sauce. Try not to overlap the raviolis too much, because then they won't cook as evenly. And you might have some spots where some raviolis aren't done as other spots. So just kind of try to do an even layer. And then lots of mozzarella. Can't forget that. I really enjoy this dish in the wintertime. And it really is a lazy way to make lasagna, because it's really quite similar to it. And then we go in with another layer of the meat sauce on top of the cheese. Just like that, kind of smooth it over. And then this is kind of my little addition. I'm adding little spoonfuls of ricotta cheese. This isn't in the recipe, but I love ricotta cheese. And I just wanted to add that in. I had this 10-ounce container in the fridge, so I just put it in this bowl and doctored it up with some herbs and some garlic and some garlic salts, and I think it really took it to the next level. And then some grated Parmesan cheese, and then here goes our second layer. So some more ravioli. Just like that, trying to get an even layer. And you use like this is a big value type size package of ravioli, but you're just going to use about 25 ounces of frozen cheese ravioli. I mean, you could make it even quicker and just use fresh ravioli if you want, but, you know, it's just kind of a good way, I think, to use frozen. And it's cheaper too, so there's that. Okay, and then on top of the ravioli, we're going in with some more mozzarella. And then this is the last part. We're going to top it off with the meat sauce. Just like that, smooth it over. And then I'll put on the very last bit of the ricotta cheese. It just made it even more creamy and delicious, and I would recommend putting on some ricotta cheese if you make this, because I really enjoy it. Usually I make my own ricotta cheese, but I had that container in the fridge, so I just used what I had. Put on some dollops of ricotta. So good. It's really yummy. And, you know, you'll have plenty of leftovers probably with this, so you can have it for lunch the next day. It'll be good in the fridge for, you know, 3 or 4 days, I'd say. In fact, we still have some in the fridge right now. And then top off the meat sauce with a little bit more mozzarella and some Parmesan cheese. Yummy, yummy. Okay, and I put a little bit of Italian parsley just for a little bit of color. Put the cover on and let it go for about 4 hours on low. Here we are 4 hours later, and it's done. Look at that. It's gorgeous. It was so good. Yum, yum, yum. So after it's done, after 4 hours, turn the crock pot off and just let it sit for like 15 minutes. So now we can, and in the meantime, after it was done, I made my breadsticks and threw together a little Caesar salad, and this was a really good weeknight quick dinner. Not much prep, you just gotta prep the meat sauce and throw it together. You could do this, you know, in the afternoon or in the morning. I don't know if you want to do it in the morning because it doesn't take that long to cook, but you know, if you have a crock pot with a timer, that could work too. But anyway, this was good. This was great. I will link all of these recipes in the description box for you, but this is a good one for the wintertime for sure. All right, so now I'm moving on to the final recipe, which is a creamy tortellini and chicken and spinach soup. So we have the first step here. It's kind of weird. You put flour and an onion and dried basil and a couple cloves of garlic and tomato paste and olive oil in a bowl, just like you see here. And then you mix it all up and you put it in the microwave for about 5 minutes. Olive oil here. This is gonna form, it's kind of like a quick roux, sort of. I mean, kind of, not really, but I'm just following the recipe. And this is what I was told to do. So I put it in the microwave, and then you're supposed to stir it like every 90 seconds or so. And just, you know, keep an eye on it and make sure it doesn't, you know, get too scorched or anything. I don't know. Anyway, you're just supposed to stir it every 90 seconds until the 5 minutes is up. My daughter came in. She's like, oh my God, that's so weird. I'm not eating that. But it turned out just fine. This was our favorite recipe out of all of them. So then after that mixture is done cooking in the microwave, then you put it in the crock pot. Just like that in the bottom of it. Okay, and then it calls for 2 cans of petite diced tomatoes. But my family's not a fan of tomatoes, so I just wanted to do 1 little can of mild Rotel. And I thought the Rotel would just give it a little extra flavor than just plain old tomatoes. So that's what I did. And then 4 cups or 1 carton of beef broth, chicken broth, I'm sorry. And then you have the chicken. 1 to 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I had chicken breast, so I have about 1.5, 1 breast and then a half. And I butterflied them and pounded them out to tenderize them a little bit before putting them in. And then you just put them in whole and season with salt and pepper. And then this one is going to cook on low also, 4 to 6 hours, or you can go on high for 3 to 4 hours. But I did low, 3 to 4, and it was fine. It was good. And this was just under 4 hours, actually. It didn't take the full 4 hours. So then you just take out the chicken. Make sure that it's done. It should have an internal temperature of 165. And these were definitely done. There was 3 pieces in there. I just wanted to make sure. And then you just cut them up into diced pieces, little dice-sized chunks. Or you could shred it, whatever you want to do. I did the bite-sized chunks. And shredding would be good too, but anyway. Okay, and then what step are we doing now? Oh, a tip in the recipe. When you put your heavy cream into the soup, it's better to warm it up first, because if you put it in cold right out of the fridge, it could curdle. So I put it on the stovetop and just let it warm up. And then I'm going in with 1 small bag of cheese tortellini. And then here's the spinach. It says to use fresh, but I always have a bag of frozen spinach in my freezer. So I just put in like a handful of that. And kind of the beauty of it being frozen is you can kind of crumble it up in your hand, you know, like to make smaller pieces so you don't have big chunks of spinach. Or, you know, if you're into that, that's fine too. But so then you just take the heated up heavy cream and throw it in, along with about a half a cup, or mine was probably closer to a cup, of shredded Parmesan. And then you just stir it around, and then you switch your crock pot to high and let the tortellini cook for like 10 minutes. Mine took a little bit longer though. And then it's ready. Look it's ready. Look, it's done. It's so good. Yummy. And then make breadsticks with this, or you could have some salad. But I just had breadsticks. And this is a pretty hearty soup with the cheese tortellini and the chicken. It's a really good little soup to make. Garnish it with a little bit more Parmesan cheese. And here it is. Well, anyway, here's the other one. I just wanted to show. These are the 3 recipes that I made. They're all really good for the fall time, winter time, what have you. And I will link all these recipes for you in the description box. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video.